All right. Welcome back, everybody, to the Friday Night Prepper Pre-Party Show. Appreciate you all. I see there's a couple people already in chat. We'll say hi to you all in just a minute. Hope you all are having a great Friday. Hope you all have some great plans for the weekend. We're going to give people just a minute here to kind of get through the commercials and get those notifications out. And in the meantime, we'll do a couple little housekeeping announcements. So first things first, I always let people know that on my live streams, it's perfectly fine to disagree with me in chat or in comments if you're watching it on the replay. I ask you to always be kind to the moderators. They are not paid. They do this as a service to other members of the community. If you have a channel that you run that's related, especially if it's related to prepping or homesteading or anything like that, just say something in the chat there. I'm sure Lee or Bacon, when he gets here, or Sassy, if she gets here, we'll be happy to give you a little bit of a shout out. Prepping by Faith, it's good to see you, my friend. And always be constructive with your criticism. If you're particularly hateful, if you're like hateful to I don't care if you're hateful towards me, but if you're hateful towards large groups in general, I'm probably going to delete that comment. That's not really welcome here. I teach preparedness to anybody who wants to learn it. I don't really care about where you're from, what your political beliefs are, or anything like that. We do sometimes talk a little bit about politics, but I try to keep this channel open for everybody, regardless of whatever your political views are. If you would like to see the little bit more political side of me, you're welcome to join me over on Twitter, where I do get a little bit more, I give you a little bit more of my thoughts on those kind of matters. Thing two. I will not be live next week at my usual time. I've got something going on with some very dear friends, actually my best friends, and my godson. I'm going to get to see my godson after a long time. So I will have something for you to release next Friday night, probably a long form video. But if I can't get that done, then you'll at least get a short video next Friday night. And then we will presumably return live the following week after that. I do have some collaborations that I'm starting to email back and forth with people. So keep an eye out for some of that stuff. I'm in talks with, well, I'm not going to say it because they're organizing it, and I'll wait till they do the announcement. I don't want to spoil the fun for them. Let's see what else. There's a poll. Yes, that's the other thing. So there's a poll at the top there. If you don't mind, just for fun, go ahead and vote in that poll. And yeah, I guess that's it. Let's go ahead and get started with tonight's topic. So yeah, so some of you know that I participate in a lot of online forums, sometimes as Prepping with Sarge, and sometimes I use an alias because I like to interact. Sometimes and just be a little bit more anonymous and not have it be necessarily tied back to my what I teach here. And there's some things that I notice in these forums that sometimes it bothers me, and I was trying to think about the right way to try to approach this. I don't like to necessarily get into an argument with people over it. I would rather use it as an opportunity for a discussion, and not that like I know everything in the world. I'm certainly not the world's greatest expert. I've been doing this for a long time. I know some things very, very well, like gardening and foraging, and there's other things in the preparedness community that I don't know well. Or I'm not very good at, such as hunting, right? So, I contribute where I can, and I learn where I can learn too. Because even with like foraging, which I've been doing since teenager, really, there's always new things I'm learning, and occasionally I make a mistake. One of my foraging friends, Forager Chick, actually caught one of those mistakes for me and said, "Hey, I think you identified that wrong." And so I had to like do a little research and ask a couple other people's opinions. And it turns out I did have it wrong. So I still make mistakes there. Fortunately, what I had identified wrong was still an edible. There was nothing necessarily, and it was closely related to what I thought it was. Anyways, let's say hi to a few people here in chat. Hope you all are having a great Friday. Prepping by Faith, I saw you. Thank you so much. Lee, Cold War Prepper, really appreciate you. And Lee, if you want to give anybody shout outs in chat, if you want to put any links up, I appreciate that. I always appreciate all your help for everybody that helps out modding. And Prepping by Faith, I need to remember to add you as a mod too. I need to get in there and do that. Fred Petros, good to see you. Well, hello to Maine. Saw a couple of people here. Steve Newberry, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you. Trident, thank you. Appreciate you. Always good to have you here. If you have questions as we go ahead and drop them in comments in big caps. That helps me to find them. It's all good. It's good to see you. Holly Irwins, appreciate you. Thank you for joining us. Ivans, I'm sorry, Holly Ivans, thank you. Homestead Engineering, always good to see you, my friend. Hope you're having a good Friday. And there's Bacon. How you doing? It's good to see you, Bacon. All right, I think I got everybody. So there's numerous things I could tackle with this, but the one that I really want to go after tonight is there's this thing that I see a lot in the forums on Facebook, on Reddit, wherever, where somebody will throw out an idea for discussion like, hey, what do you think about this? And immediately a lot of people will comment, well, that wouldn't work because XYZ, or that wouldn't do you any good when SHTF happens. If you're brand new to prepping, SHTF means basically when the poop hits the fan, like some emergency has happened. Now, the problem with this, right? So the problem with this is that, number one, most of us have, like, I've lived through several life-threatening situations and life-threatening storms and emergencies and things like that. Some other people have served overseas in combat zones. Some other people have lived in countries where things were not as good as we have it here in the United States, right? So we all have different experiences that we bring to the table, but very few of us have lived through like something like the Argentinian collapse or the fall of the Soviet Union and things like that, right? Like, there are people in the community that contribute with that. Like, we have Furfall and Selco, and they are great resources. Like, you definitely need to be checking out their information. And Furfall's book, actually, I'll link it right now. This is, of course, an Amazon affiliate link. So if you use my link, you will get a commission. I will get a commission. I wish you would get a commission. I get a commission. It's no extra charge to you, of course. But I am required to disclose that. There it is. Just want to link this for you. So all preppers, I think, really should have this book in your library. And I recommend it. I read it a couple years ago. I'm actually probably due for a reread, but these guys are great resources. Okay, dropping it right now in chat. So that's Profile's book. And he's also on YouTube as, I believe, The Modern Survivalist is his channel name. And he's been on a lot of podcasts and things like that. And Selco, I believe, has a book too, although I don't know if that's up on Amazon. Let me check real quick. So Selco survived the fall of the seal. Yeah, he does have it on. I think. No, I'm not. Yeah, there it is. Okay, I do have it. Hang on. So this is Selco, and he's a great resource too. Now, the two collapses are very, very different in some ways, but there's also some similarities. So, but the rest of us, right? The rest of us, here's Selco's book right now. And again, this is an Amazon affiliate link. If you use my link, I may earn a small commission at no extra charge to you, and I am required to tell you that. So most of us have not lived through those kind of events, right? So we are, we speak from our experience, we speak from our training, and we all bring different things to the table. But to say that something wouldn't work when, we're all kind of making a lot of assumptions, I think is basing it on like tunnel vision, I guess is the only way I can think of it. So when I say SHTF to you in the audience right now, what's the first thing that pops into your mind? And some of you may say like EMP, right? Some of you may say the zombie apocalypse. Some of you may say civil war. Some of you may say nuclear war. Some of you may say a great flood. A while back I had Van City Alpine Preparedness, Van City Prepper talking with me about the iceberg shelf, right? The Doomsday iceberg. So there's all different ways that an SHTF could happen, but people answer and they say, well, that wouldn't work because XYZ, your electric water filter, as an example, wouldn't work with SHTF because there'll be no electricity. Well, you don't know that because there's different types of SHTF, right? Or your solar panels won't work because the sun will be blacked out. Well, if the sun's blacked out, we're all going to die. Okay, so silver and gold will be worthless. Well, if it's the zombie apocalypse, yeah, silver and gold will be worthless. If it's a civil war, or if another country is attacking the United States in non-nuclear type scenario, if it's a brief economic downturn, if it is a reset of our currency, silver and gold will not be worthless. I promise you that. So it's the idea of like we all have these tunnel vision thoughts in our head about what SHTF looks like. And so then when somebody throws out an idea and says, well, what about rechargeable tools, right? Like I have a set of rechargeable tools that I really like. Somebody say, well, that's not going to do you any good because the EMP is going to take that out. Well, EMP is only one scenario. And in fact, I would say to you that on my channel, I really try to emphasize the most likely SHTF situations that I think we're going to encounter in the next couple of years. So do I think that we're going to have an EMP in the next couple of years? I really don't. Do I think I'll even see an EMP in my lifetime? I really don't. We're definitely not going to see a zombie apocalypse. Well, you could argue that some people are like zombies, but we're not going to see a real zombie apocalypse, right? But what are we going to see? Well, I live in Charleston. We are a port city. We could absolutely and will see more hurricanes, right? We will see more. We will see in my area flooding. Maybe in your area you're going to see catastrophic drought. Maybe in your area you're going to see wildfires, right? And we are in a recession, right? Like I don't care what the pretty talking heads on CNN say that it's not a recession. It is a recession, right? Because the definition of a recession is two quarters with negative GDP. We passed that a while ago, folks, a while ago. And then they changed the definition because it wasn't politically popular to call it a recession, right? So yeah, we are in a recession and the recession is going to continue and it's going to get worse before it gets better. Do I think that this is the economic collapse? I personally don't think that, but many of my peers believe that this is the beginning of the economic collapse. And I respect that because I can definitely be wrong, right? So those are some examples. Let me check chat here, see what you all are saying. Again, please remember to vote in the poll up at the top. I'm just curious how people are seeing that issue there. All right, let's check your comments and see if I got any questions or anything. Not hyped up on caffeine, huh? We gotta take care of that bacon. Thank you so much, Lee, for helping to post some links for other channels here. And if you're watching this video on replay, I definitely recommend turning the chat on and checking that out. There's always good conversation in chat. And if it's not available to you yet, that's not my fault. YouTube tends to hold it for a couple hours and then release it just to make sure there's not anything inappropriate in chat. I have no control over that. Usually by the next day, within 24 hours, the chat is up. So I definitely recommend you check that out. Selko Begovic, I think I pronounced that right. Thank you, Lee. Fed Up American, thank you for joining us tonight. Appreciate you. Keith, good to see you. Hope you're having a great Friday so far. Dragon Slayer, it's good to see you. Yeah, so if you're a modern refugee, if you're joining in right now and you would like Lee to give you a little shout out or Bacon to give you a little shout out, to drop your link for your channel in the chat, just let him know. Rosemary, good to see you. Hope you're having a good Friday. Kentucky, good to see you, my friend. Are you getting some kayaking in this weekend? God is great. Yes, he is. Thank you so much for joining us all the way from Japan. Appreciate you. All right. Cool. Good stuff. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. If you're enjoying the content tonight, please give me a thumbs up. Really appreciate that. And if you're brand new to the channel and you'd like to subscribe, I appreciate that as well. Thank you so much. Always welcome new people here. And if you have a channel, especially if it's channel related to homesteading or bushcraft or survival or preparedness, let me know. I like to check out other channels. I found some new channels this week that were I had never seen before. So yeah, definitely if don't just like lurk and be anonymous, especially if you've got a channel like that, I want to know who you are so I can check out your stuff and support you as well. All right. So it's frustrating, right? Like when we see this stuff go on in these forums, and it's my gut reaction is a lot of times is I want to jump in and be like, yeah, we don't know, right? And if I say it in a way that, because it's the internet, right? If you say it in a way that it's like is not keeping an open mind and being like, hey, let's just discuss this and not argue about it, then it usually will turn into an argument because it's the internet, and that's not going to really help anybody, right? Like so it's a struggle for me that I have to personally resist the urge to like immediately jump in and say, well, you don't know what the SHTF is going to look like. A Category 5 hurricane is an SHTF if it's your city, right? Ask Katrina about that. Ask Charleston what that was like after Hugo, right? Like that is an SHTF. It's gonna be like your city got attacked. That's exactly what it's gonna be like. And you're going to be cut off from resources and electricity and food and fresh water for a while. So that is absolutely an SHTF. If an EF5 tornado blows through your little town and takes out half the town, that's an SHTF. So it's not always an EMP. It's not always a zombies, right? And I think where this comes from is, we all step into this preparedness lifestyle for different reasons. I think for a lot of people, it's like maybe the first time that you had kind of an event like that, like a storm where you lost power for more than a couple days, or you lived through a tornado, or I know a lot of us like had grandparents that grew up in the Depression, or maybe you had parents that grew up in World War II, and things like that. So we heard a lot of the stories about these things. So we all get introduced to it in a different way, but and growing up, like, we wouldn't have called this preparedness, at least in our household. I didn't even know what a prepper was until that show Doomsday Preppers came out, which kind of made a mockery of it, to be honest with you. But if you had asked me like what this lifestyle was uh back before that, I would have said, I don't know, common sense, right? Like to be prepared that times are not always good. Uh, Times can get really hard. Things can happen. So I would have said, just kind of being prepared, maybe I would have said, or just like common sense. And then the other aspect of it, like the part of it where I liked wilderness survival and stuff like that, I got more from my dad and his training, being a paratrooper, and some of the things he showed me, and then later on some of that stuff with Boy Scouts and stuff, things like that too. So maybe I would have identified with the term survivalist, maybe, but prepper was new to me. I didn't even know what that was until that show came out. So I think people got introduced through, like, some of them maybe through Doomsday Preppers, or if it's more the survival side of it, then maybe it was like Dual Survivor or Alone, Alone is a great show. Um, or Naked and Afraid, or any of those type of shows. Maybe that was your introduction, or maybe you read a survivalist kind of novel like Going Home. Right now, Lee on his channel does a book club where they talk about all kinds of different books that are either fiction or nonfiction and are prepper related, or survivalist kind of series. And so maybe that was your introduction, or maybe it was a movie, right? And so I think, unfortunately, because of how we come into it, like if your first introduction to preparedness was reading Going Home, then like you might get hyper focused on EMPs. But the reality is, we're going to deal with a recession. Much more likely, you're going to deal with the effects of a recession than you are an EMP, right? Not saying an EMP couldn't happen. Of course it could. A solar storm could happen. More likely than an EMP, though, is hacking. Like somebody could hack our grid, or sections of our grid, large sections of our grid, right? So they can do that right now with plausible deniability, right? Like any country that's got advanced technology could do that right now with plausible deniability, and there's no cost for like a nuclear weapon. There's no danger to their side of the world. So that's much more likely. And so let's say that another country decides they want to do a cyber attack on the United States, and they want to take out the part of the East Coast grid. And then like evidence points back to a certain country. All they have to do is say, well, we didn't do that. Maybe that was, some kids from the university. We'll be sure to check into that. If we find those criminals, we'll extradite them to the United States. And they got plausible deniability. So that's much, much more likely of a scenario than an EMP. But yeah, an EMP could happen. Just don't get hyper focused on it. And where I see this really potentially hurting people, that especially if you're new to preparedness, is with the financial preparedness piece, right? Like, so sometimes people will say, well, what do you think about silver and gold? Or let's just talk about an emergency savings right now. Like, forget if you don't like silver and gold, that's fine, right? Let's talk about emergency savings. Every prepper should be thinking about paying down debt and building an emergency savings. But inevitably, when somebody tries to bring this up, somebody in the forums will say, well, it's not going to matter because your money, all debt is going to go away. Oh, good luck with that. I promise you that even if we hit like a currency reset or a currency collapse here, that the people who gave you a mortgage want their money and the government wants their taxes. Okay. So how does that happen? I don't know. Maybe it's with a digital coin, a CBDC or something like that. Right. But I promise you, your debt is not going to get wiped out. And if you're banking on that and you're running up your credit card, like, because there was a channel actually last year that was telling people just run up your credit card and get what you need, it's not going to matter. That is a really, really bad advice. Really bad advice. And you will be sorry if you spend $20,000 getting preps on your credit card instead of like buying what you can afford, keeping a budget, and also having some emergency savings. But you don't have to listen to me. You can, of course, make your own decisions, and you can disagree with me in comments and chat. In fact, I welcome that. I get that I don't know everything. I'm just giving you my perspectives on this, right? And so, why do I think it's so important to have financial preparedness as part of your preps? Well, again, it goes back to me for like having lived through some pretty bad hurricanes, some pretty bad flooding, some pretty bad tornadoes, some pretty bad ice storms, getting laid off one time because the program that I was working for, the funding got cut. So those are all personal SHTFs or neighborhood SHTFs. And if you don't have emergency savings for those kind of things, or storm causes a tree to land on your house, or even just like, your car breaks down, well, that could be like a little mini personal SHTF, and you got to get your car fixed, right? So maybe you throw it on your credit card, but isn't it better to have a little emergency savings so you don't have to throw it on your credit card, right? Because even now, and I'm not anti-credit card, I'm not Dave Ramsey with that. I think credit cards have a place. I have one. I use it to buy my airline tickets. I have used it occasionally in emergencies, but try to pay it down like really, really quick as I can. And right now, with the interest rates, thanks to Powell, awesome stuff. Great job, buddy. The interest rates are like sky high. And so if you are using your credit card for anything other than like you absolutely have to because you need food for your family or something like that, which I totally understand if that's the situation you're in. But for anything else, like if you're using it to buy something just because like you wanted a cool knife that Sarge showed you, right? Like, you said, oh, I want to get that knife. Let me just throw it on the credit card and I'll pay it down someday. That's not good preparedness wisdom, in my opinion, right? Save up your money and get that. Or if you do use your credit card for the points, pay it down as quick as you can, right? Because the interest rates are so high, right? So this little knife here, I think was 35-ish off the top of my head. I don't remember. So if I buy this on a credit card and I spread that over 10 months and I'm paying, 18%, 20% interest rate, I'm paying a lot more than that $35, right? So that's why I don't advocate for that. Okay. And just having that emergency saving. Now I get that many people, actually, let me pause. We'll check comments here again, and then I'll come back to that last part there. Yeah, if you're enjoying this, please hit that like button. I appreciate that. Thank you, everybody who's reminding on that. I really appreciate you all. And as you can see, I'm streaming from the laptop again today because of all the problems I'm having with my phone. Still haven't figured that out. If I miss a question, I apologize, y'all. I'm trying to scan. Yeah, you can't answer the poll? I'm sorry. If you're just joining in right now, there's a poll at the top if you don't mind to vote, I appreciate that. Being able to pivot. And I love how Modern Refugee says this. He said, SHTF is never going to be what we think it is. I 100% agree with that. Being able to pivot, as Prepping by Faith says, absolutely. And Bacon says everybody has their comfort zones. A common one I like to pick on is folks that stack firearms, ammo, and little. Yeah. So that's that tunnel vision again, Bacon. The like I'm not going to go into this tonight, but the people who say I don't need to prep, I just have a gun and I'll take what I want. Oh, you're making a big mistake, and you should read Selko's book to see what happens to people who try to run like the werewolf prepper, which is, I don't like that term, that they're just going to take what they want. Selko will tell you exactly what happens to the people that tried to do that, and it's not good. You're not going to be happy with that plan. And Lee talked about that on one of his streams recently too. I remember you talking about that, Lee. So yeah, do I think that a way to protect your family should be part of your preparedness? 100%. 100%. But that should not be your only, and maybe not even your first. Honestly, a way to filter and store water, I think, should be your first. Shelia, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you. And Bacon says, check out Joe Dolio. I don't know that channel. I'll try to check it out. Dragon Slayer, I see that you got some stuff going on there. I'll keep you in my prayers too. I'm not going to throw that out on the live stream, but I'll keep you in my prayers. Did I miss anything else? Dragon Slayer says getting out of debt and saving some cash for emergencies, keeping a rotation of food, buy ammo, and buying Bibles. Yep. And yeah, so it's all good. Yeah, that's good discipline. So it's all good says he uses his credit card for the points, but he pays it off. I got no problem with that. I really don't. But it does take discipline. Yeah, Lee's got a good one there too. Make sure you're thinking about sanitation for like a Katrina event or worse. If your water is shut off, if the electricity is shut off and sanitation starts to deteriorate, what's your plan? Right. So Lee talks about that a lot on his channel too, Cold War Prepper. Make sure you check it out. And he and I did a stream a while back too, where we were talking about that. Vanessa Kitty, it's good to see you, my friend. Hope you're doing good. Acer, thank you for joining us. Appreciate you. Yeah, the bug out bag. So Acer Rub Rum. I have a bug out bag. I love my bug out bag. It's a really fun project. I actually would encourage all preppers to do that at some point. But the reality is, like, if I have to bug out, because I have had to bug out, we had one actually twice I had to bug out. One was for an ice storm that knocked the power out at my Kentucky farm. And on the third day, we were able to see breath inside of the home, and my fingers were starting to get a little bit numb. So we bugged out for that. And then the second time I bugged out was during one of our hurricanes here in Charleston. When you bug out, most likely you're not bugging out to the woods, folks, right? Like that's just another part of that fantasy. And I'm not saying don't make a bug out bag or an inch bag, right? I have them. They're fun. It's a fun project to do. But the reality is if I bug out, most likely I'm going to a friend's house that's further in, or I'm going to bug out to a hotel maybe, or bug out maybe even to my car. So like, again, when you think about bugging out to the woods, that's like the most extreme situation where like we're getting invaded by aliens or something like that. It's highly unlikely that you're going to have that situation. Virginia Bushcrafter, good to see you. Yeah, I saw you were working with your tents on your videos. I think I might have the same tent as you, actually. Yeah, definitely. If you're watching this on replay, check it out. Check out all these links. There's great channels being shared here. Forager Chick, it's good to see you, my friend. Hope you're having a great day. Maccabee, it's good to see you. Hope you're having a great day. We are at the weekend, right? All right. So, yeah, where did I leave off? Let's think about this for a second. Oh my gosh, ADD moment. um, not having it was something to do with running up the credit card and not having cash. Oh, it's gonna blank on me now. But let me jump around a little bit. Maybe it'll come back to me. So I think I wanted to bring this up too because I feel like this was something that was a big pet peeve of mine when it happened, and I kind of the reason that I had a pet peeve with it then and now it's a pet peeve for me still now was a couple of years ago the CDC put something out on their website where basically it was like if you prepare for the zombie apocalypse then you're prepared for everything, and I think that I get it that that was kind of a fun thing, fun little um, campaign that they were doing to try to get people into preparedness. Because The Walking Dead was really popular at that time, and zombie movies were like really kind of hitting their peak at that time. So I get why they were trying to do that, but it's like it's seeing the forest but not the trees, like or seeing the trees but not seeing the forest, right? Like that if you got people thinking along those worst case scenarios, sometimes they're missing the more likely basic scenarios, right? And if you're, again, if your plan is like, I don't need to save any cash, oh, I remembered what my thought was. Okay, I'm going to get it in a second. I don't need to save any cash because it's going to be useless. I don't need to, I'm not interested in silver and gold. Okay, whatever, that's fine. It's not the only option for you. But if your plan is that, like, that's the only scenario where you're going to have to deal with these emergencies, I think that I disagree with that. I think that's not the right way to go. I think start at the more likely scenarios and then, work your way up, right? Work your way up to like, okay, what next? What next? What's the, so I'm prepared for a hurricane and 3 days without power. That's fantastic. You're doing better than 99% of the planet at that point, right? What's next? Well, I'd like to know I'd like to be prepared for if we had no power for 2 months. Go for it. I'd like to know what it'd be like if I couldn't get any medicine for a year. Go for it. Learn some foraging from medicinal herbs. Get your stuff from Jace Medical. Store some OTC meds, right? But start at the most likely scenarios is my suggestion. Okay. Now I have one more point, and then we're going to start to wind this down. The point that I had forgotten that I just remembered is so when I say I get that it could be frustrating, and if I say start building an emergency savings because so many people live paycheck to paycheck, hand to mouth. And there were times in my life where I had to do that as well. I've talked about that, some of that stuff. So I get it. I really do. I get it. But you have to figure out a way to put back a little bit each pay period. You just have to. You got to take it from somewhere, or you work more. You take a second job or a third job. I work 3 jobs. One is my primary job. This one, my YouTube and social media, because it generates an income. I consider it a job. And I have a consulting business that I do. I help people who are new to the field of therapy work on getting their licensure through a process that we call clinical supervision. And I do some trainings and public speaking and things like that through it. So I am extremely busy. I would argue even like too busy. If I could figure out how to take something off my table, I would. And I get that people shouldn't have to work 2 jobs. I totally understand that, believe me. But if you don't get this part down of like starting to build an emergency savings, then you're always going to be treading water and never getting ahead. You're always going to be like shoveling sand against the tide that's coming in, and you're never going to really get ahead of it, right? The only way that I know, besides like getting lucky or unfortunately inheriting some money, the only way I know is to dig your way out of that paycheck to paycheck situation by either cutting costs or bringing in more income somehow, right? Second job, ask your boss for a raise if they'll do it, whatever, figure it out, doing overtime, whatever. But those are the only ways. And so this is where I will kind of agree with Dave Ramsey and some of his stuff. Like Dave does not agree that he doesn't think that anybody should ever have a credit card. I disagree. I disagree there, but most of his other stuff, most of his other content is really good. And another one that's good, I'll link this here too. Hang on one second. So actually, let me link a Dave Ramsey book first. And if you don't want to buy this, check your library. Like I swear, all the libraries have Dave Ramsey stuff. So let's do the Total Money Makeover, which is a good place to start. And come on, link. Really? There it is. All right, so this is Total Money Makeover. This is an Amazon affiliate link. If you use this one or the next one, which I'm about to give you, I may earn a small commission at no extra charge to you, and I am required to tell you that. Okay, so that's Total Money Makeover. And then the other one is that I recommend is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Now, I want to talk about this one for a minute because I have issues with some of the concepts in here, but there's also good material in there, right? So Rich Dad, Poor Dad will teach you some stuff about building wealth, right? You can't deny that. What I don't like about Rich Dad, Poor Dad is he seems to do like he's got an attitude about the poor and kind of shames the poor, almost like it's their fault that they're poor, which I don't agree with that. You can be born into generational poverty and have a couple life situations. You could be born into wealth and have a couple life situations really kick your butt, and all of a sudden you're now stuck in poverty, right? So like it's not just like, hey, I'm rich because I'm smarter than you, which is kind of the attitude that he takes sometimes. So if you can get past that like narcissistic element to it and just focus in on like he does have good advice in here about building wealth. So the link I'm giving you right now is Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's an Amazon affiliate link. If you use this link, I may earn a small commission at no additional charge to you, and I'm required to tell you that. All right, let's check chat one more time, and then I'm going to wind this one down. And again, thank you, mods, for putting up those links. Really appreciate y'all. Y'all's do an awesome job. Yeah, and Dragon Slayer, I agree. Like I'm 50-ish, and I go camping and rucking and things like that. And I can tell you, it is getting harder on me. Like it's not things don't come as easy as they do when you're 20 something, you know. Yeah, camping is a great way to train skills such as, you can use that time to do some foraging and some fire cooking and building fires. You can build shelters while you're out there. It's really fun. Looking for tracks, animal tracks, things like that. Thank you. It's all good. He says, being out of debt is an important prep because the whole world might not have an SHTF, but it might be just you, 100%. So Modern Refugee says $10,000 in a $10 Walmart bag would get you out of a lot of problems. And Furfal, who we talked about earlier, says something similar. He says he said something on Jack Spirko's podcast that was like, there's very few. I want you to think about this for a second. He says there's very few problems in life that $5,000 in U.S. cash and a Glock cannot fix. I mean, it's in a way, if you think about it, it is kind of true. Oh man, so you were through Irma and you had lost power for 29 days. Wow. That's definitely good practice. That's a good trade there, Lee. I like that. That's a good trade. Don't look for the zebra in a herd of horses. All right. Did I get everybody? Wealth shamers are not cool. Yeah. Yeah, Lee, he does like real estate. One of the key takeaways from that book is that when you look at some of these super rich billionaires, that was how they built their wealth by there's a tax loophole that basically like if you sell your house, all right, don't first of all, time out. Not financial advice, not legal advice, not tax advice. Okay, my channel is for entertainment purposes only. Read the book. He'll give you the advice, not me. So if I misquote it, or if I misrepresent it, again, my channel is for entertainment purposes only. But my understanding is that there's a tax loophole where if I sell my house and I buy a more expensive piece of property within a year, then I don't have to pay taxes on that, right? It's something that the law is something like that. And so you have a lot of real estate moguls who have used that to their advantage to work their way up that chain of wealth in real estate. And then once they hit a certain point, sell it off and downsize. But now you got all this like liquidated cash. And yeah, I'm sure you would pay taxes on it at that point, but like you've worked your way up tax free. So it's a nice little trick. Well, and that's an interesting point, right? Modern refugee. Like my grandmother grew up in the Great Depression, very, very, very poor, and she certainly had her survival skills. Forager chick, no worry. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for joining us. I know you've got a lot going on right now with your classes and whatnot. So if you don't know, folks, Forager chick, who's a good friend of our channel, she's doing some classes that you can take online to learn some more skills for foraging, mushrooms, plants, medicinal plants, all kinds of cool stuff. Definitely check it out. I got to take a class with her last year at Georgia Bushcraft where she showed me how to inoculate a mushroom log. And if she teaches it again this year, I will be back in that class again. Jody Vessar says that working on your one of the things that Dave Ramsey says is that being wealthy increases your chances of living longer. That is true. And I agree with that, Lee. The homeless are very good at finding resources, and they can tell you where safe drinking water is. They can tell you where there's free food. Um, and I've done a few videos about that too, like how to approach a homeless camp and that kind of thing. And there's a right way and a wrong way to do that. And Cheetos. Okay, so it's all good. Says you have to live in the house for 5 years before selling. Thank you for clarifying that. Okay, cool. They have Forager Chick. They have not yet. I'm checking them every day. They look like they're ready to go. They have those white like spore things at the ends of the log, but it's not fruited yet. I'm sure it will. I feel like I did it right and everything, so I know it will. I will believe me. I'll take some pictures and upload them to Instagram when that happens. So maybe I'll do a video on it. So I know it will happen. All right, I'm going to start to wind this one down. Yeah, a lot of your camping gear, Bacon says, can also be used for your bug out bag, 100%. And skills, and that's thank you for bringing me back to that. Practice bartering. People don't know how to do that. Yeah, so how do you learn how to barter? Go to a flea market and talk to the vendors there, and ask them, like what are you willing to take for this, or talk to your neighbors, like, hey, I got some tomatoes. You want to trade for some zucchinis, right? Yeah, that's Virginia Bushcrafter. You're right. It's gotten very, very hard for new buyers to come up with the down payment. And I really have a ton of empathy for that. When I bought my first house back in 1999, I think I only needed $3,000 in down payment. So even on like a not a great salary, most people can find a way to come up with $3,000. Now you need much, much more than that. And it is really, really hard for people to get that first home purchase under your belt. Once you've got the first one under your belt, it's a lot easier because you can sell it and use your equity to buy your next house and that kind of thing. But that first house is really, really hard for especially for, I feel bad for young people now that are trying to come up with like $15,000, $20,000 just to get, a little piece of the American dream. Thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate everybody who came in tonight. I haven't heard of that book, Acer, but I will check that out. Okay, cool stuff. Thank you, everybody. So, all right, so let's wind this one down. So, number one, first of all, I hope you had a great Mother's Day. If you're watching this and you're a mom, and I appreciate everybody. Just a reminder, I will not be live next Friday. I'm going to be spending some time with my godson and two of my very best friends. And I will release something for you Friday, whether it's a long form video or a short form video is going to depend on what I can get done between now and then. But I will return, I believe, the following week, unless something weird's going on. Make sure you're getting outside this weekend. Enjoy yourself. And I always try to end with a positive message. So I'm going to change it up just a little bit based on what we were talking about tonight. The message for tonight is I want you to start to, if you don't already do this, get in the habit of paying yourself first. Okay. Because you matter. And yeah, your mortgage matters and your doctor's bills matter and your electricity matters and the taxes matter and your groceries matter. Like all that stuff matters. Of course, it's Maslow's hierarchy of human needs. You're talking about the basics right there, right? But you got to pay yourself first. And the reason you have to pay yourself first, even if it's only like $3 a week or $5 a week, is because if you don't, and you say, I'll pay myself after I take care of all the other bills, you're not going to do it. Most people are not going to do it because it's like that money disappears to all these other things and then it's gone and then you have no savings. But if you learn to pay yourself first, even if it's a tiny bit amount, you're starting that good habit of building the emergency savings. Okay. I get that $5 a week isn't a lot. It's not going to, at the end of a year, it's still not a lot of money, but it's a start. And then when you start to see it accumulate a little bit, you think, okay, maybe I can squeeze another 5 in there. Maybe I can squeeze 10 in there. Right. And so you're starting a process of good, healthy habits. That's the big thing that I want you to take away from tonight. If you're not already doing it, pay yourself first. Right. Within a budget, stick within, what's not going to bankrupt you and what's not going to make you like not pay your mortgage or rent or whatever, but pay yourself first. And what you will find is that if you do that, make sure you put your $5 away or your $500 away if you're in better shape than that. Put it away. Don't touch it. That's your emergency money. And then when you go to do your grocery shopping, guess what you're going to do? You're going to adjust. And so maybe you don't buy that big bag of pretzels because like I had to put money in savings. And guess what? That's okay. I like pretzels. I don't like Cheetos. But I know people who like Cheetos. Like that's fine. But what's more important, the emergency savings or the Cheetos, right? If you said Cheetos, you need to get out right now. Get out. It's the emergency savings. That is the only correct answer there. All right. And you will find that you take it out of areas that you can once you start that habit. All right. Hey, Old Sarge, appreciate you. I really, I love getting to talk to you all on Friday nights. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Make sure you spend some time with your loved ones. Get outside if you can, and pay yourself first. Keep planting your seeds. Keep stacking your silver. This is Prepping with Sarge.